guys, and welcome to your daily tarot reading for Thursday, the 4th of July, 2019. Thanks for joining me. If you're in the States, happy 4th of July. I'm using the Sorcerer's Tarot for this reading. Let's have a look at what the day is about and what the cards have to say. I've got the moon. The hangman, and the Knight of Cups. All right, so interesting. We've got different representations of the moon and the hangman. First of all, here he's like hanging upside down like a bat. It's like Batman. And the moon here, we've got this moon goddess who uses the power of the moon to make magic. And then the Knight of Cups, as always, extreme, flying around on a giant owl. Got a kind of Harry Potter vibe to this today. Okay, so first of all, we had a full moon in Cancer recently on the, I think it was the 2nd. Yeah, we had an eclipse on the 2nd of July, and I noticed so many people having meltdowns, myself included, on Sunday, just before the eclipse, and it was so great because it was like a purge. There's this woman I follow on YouTube. I've always watched her. I don't know why, because I have nothing in common with her at all. It's this woman called Trisha Paytas, and she's just a mess. And she totally freaked out on Sunday. So did I. And a lot of people in my personal life I know also just had these meltdowns. And it was really about everything coming to this boiling point and going, oh, and then being able to let it go, getting in touch with the eclipse as it came, as the energy kind of came together on Tuesday. And now we're totally in charge of the moon. Usually the moon represents fear and a path forward that's really frightening and scary. But here we're a moon goddess. We're totally in control of the moon, and we can use the moon's energy to be like this snow queen. So the moon is full versus the new moon, which is also full, but it's totally black. You don't see it, but it's also completely round, and it pulls lots of energy in. So this goddess, she has pulled this pure moon energy in to herself. And moon energy is about spirituality, it's about nurturing, it's about taking care of other people, it's about creating illusions, it's about coming across in a way that you want to come across, it's about taking care of people or being seen as someone who is nurturing and caring and caregiving. And the magic that she's able to create is to just make someone feel absolutely comfortable and loved, and to take someone out of this harsh environment, the snow, and to appear as a safe haven, and to say, just come here and let me pick you up and let me take you in my arms, and I'll make you feel safe and protected and loved. The hangman is usually someone who is being punished for a crime, and he doesn't really get it. And when you reverse him, he starts having this halo around his head, and he starts to realize that he realizes the error of his ways and what he ought to do. We've got this sorcerer's kind of cone. It looks more like a dunce's hat. In the UK, at British boarding schools, back in the day, they used to shame the kid in the class who didn't do so well, and they used to put him in the corner and put a dunce's hat on him and say, you're the dunce. A dunce basically meaning stupid. And they used to put this hat on him to identify him or her as the thickest in the class that day, and they would publicly shame that kid. Lovely, isn't it? British education at its finest. Now, here we have a hanged man who is just in his natural element. He's sleeping like the bats. So there's no punishment here. There's no realization. There's no lack of control or loss of control. There's a sense of, I'm being my natural self. I'm a sorcerer. I do things the way I do them. The bats rest and hang upside down. So do I. I just happen to sleep upside down like this. This is my natural way of relaxing. And that's how I'm going to do it. And to hell with anybody else who says that I should sleep in a bed. I like sleeping suspended from the ceiling with a sling around my foot. So that's his way of taking care of himself. Isn't that great? So if you take care of yourself by having tattoos put on your body every time you do something great as a milestone to remember that wonderful thing, then your parents might be horrified that you're ruining and mutilating your whole body, but you may see it as art and beauty. I remember I had piercings everywhere. I had a scaffold in my ear, which is like 2 piercings, and you've got a bar down the middle. Then I had a tongue piercing, and I had an eyebrow piercing. I did this at 17 when I went to London, just because, I had to individuate and I had to do something drastic. I never had the courage to do tattoos because I have the attention span of a fruit fly, and if I had an image on my body, I'd be sick of it within a day. I knew that about myself. So I went for the piercings, and I came home to visit my grandmother, and she was like, "Oh my God, the boy is mutilating himself." So bless her, she was so worried about me. But for me, it was a way of taking care of myself. It was a way of showing the world that I was different, or trying to do something for myself that was just about me, taking ownership of my body and saying, this is mine and this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm not going to live in fear. And he's really muscular. He's worked on his body. He's worked on his physique. So his natural state is to be strong and to, it's very bizarre that they've drawn him with bats, joking aside. He is an eccentric. He's strong in his eccentricity. And just because someone's weird, you don't need to write them off. It's their way of taking care of themselves. So be tolerant of other people. I think really that's the message. No matter how bizarre or how obscure you think someone's behavior is, and you have absolutely no understanding for it, being the Snow Queen here and the person who's able to make anyone feel loved and not judged, you're able to really tolerate people today, and you're able to understand people who in the past you would have judged, and you broaden your horizon, and your prejudices are gone, they're wiped away, and you don't see the person as gay or from a poor background, or male or female, or black or white, or Indian, or extremely gifted, or special needs, or all of these categories that we create for people, like, we're upper class, this is someone middle class, and we don't mix classes. In England, they still have a very, very, very strong class system. So working class people in this country really identify as working class. There's a real sense of pride in being working class. And middle class is something that the Tories, I think, represent. And then the upper crust, the upper class, they only, mix among themselves. So all of those ridiculous labels are swept aside because we're all human beings, which is funnily expressed by non-kind of human behavior. And yeah, it makes you realize that when someone is really extreme and really out on the limb, that we do all have this same thing in common. Finally, we've got the Knight of Cups, and he's riding this owl, delivering his love quickly. And you have a love for the unusual. And you learn that love isn't all about the way it ought to be and the way it seems. Sometimes love can be messy and complicated. Sometimes you fall in love with someone and it's a social taboo. And it's forbidden. And love doesn't care about any of that. And then you have to deal with the fallout. Let's say you're living in 1930s America and you're in Mississippi. And you're a white woman, the daughter of some rich, owner of land and slaves and all sorts of things. And you fall in love with a black man and you realize that this is your soulmate. You have so much social garbage that you're going to have to deal with in that situation. It would have made it very, very seriously dysfunctional, and it could have really ended in real violence because how prejudiced and idiotic people were back then when it came to race and that whole culture. So this is a wonderful day of really letting go of a prejudice that you have against certain people to realize that love is love is love, that your love also isn't always a smooth ride. And maybe you discover a love in your life that isn't usual. Maybe you fall in love with someone who you never imagined you would fall in love with. Maybe you fall in love with a person rather than a gender. Maybe you fall in love with yourself and you never thought you would because you've hated yourself for so long and you've had anorexia and you've tried to control everything about you and you've despised yourself for as long as you can remember. And suddenly you're confronted with someone who hangs upside down, or someone, like someone who really is extreme, someone who has done body modification. Let's say you run across someone like that who's got horns that he's put under his skin so that it looks like he actually has horns coming out of his forehead. You've got people like that, or people who have split tongues, a forked tongue, or someone who's really stretched out the lobes of their ears or lengthened their neck, any kind of body modification. And you run into someone like that and you've got issues about your own body and you see that extremity and you're like, wow, that's a different way of really managing and manifesting your body in the way you see it. And that's a different way of taking control of the body. And what I'm doing here is actually I'm hating myself and I'm ruining my own body. And it may just give you that wake-up call that, hey, I actually have not, the hatred isn't aimed at my body, it's aimed at the lack of control I have in my life. So let me stop destroying my body. So it's a wonderful day of celebration and celebrating love in whatever form and shape and context it comes along, and forgetting that you only love men or women or whatever it may be, and that you can forgive. And if you threw your son out when he was 16 because he was gay, and you've regretted that ever since, but you couldn't pick up the phone because of your pride, then maybe today you can pick up the phone and say, I've missed you so much. I'm so sorry I made that mistake and I hurt your feelings. I want you back in my life. I love you. That, I guarantee you, that son of yours would be so happy. He would be straight back, because every human being on the planet wants their parents' approval. I don't care what people say when they cut off their parents. It takes a lot to fall out of love with your parents, and if there's any way to make reparations, or to see the error of your ways, or to see that, just because I can't love that way doesn't mean that the person who does love in that way is wrong. And just to have that enlightenment moment that you don't have to be afraid of things that are different. People are different in all sorts of different ways, in a multitude of ways. And you're still learning about loving yourself and loving other people. You don't have all the answers. So don't judge, and just try and be as loving as you possibly can. So you're very in touch with your feelings. You're open-minded. You see things differently. And the fundamental energy that you're tapping into is love, is love, is love, is love. 18 and 12 is 20, 30, and 1 is 31. 3 and 1 is 4, and 4 is about stability and structure. So there's a new understanding within you that creates a new foundation, a solid structure within you on which you can build your new house, your new way forward. Have a wonderful day. Celebrate yourself, celebrate your life, celebrate the fact that you're free, that you're loving, that you're allowed to love, that people love you, that there is love in the world, that you are a safe haven for other people, that people come to you when they're afraid, that you have someone to go to when you're afraid. And really thank those people, and maybe send them a gift, or invite them over for a meal, or just say, thank you for always being there for me. Have a fabulous day. It's a strange reading this. I haven't had one like this before. It's very odd, especially the bad thing. Have a fabulous, fabulous day. If you would like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. Click on the reading tab to order your reading. Have a fabulous day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.